All right, welcome to lecture 4. We were discussing chemical equilibrium last time and we'll continue the discussion today. What we were describing last time is a system where we had a rigid vessel and filled it up with some chemical species and we were considering reaction in that. So, if you remember last time, we had looked at a plot like this. We had looked at something like this. What was the system? We had carbon monoxide and we had oxygen, and then CO2 was getting formed, and then part of that CO2 was also getting dissociated. And the fraction of CO2 which was dissociated was alpha. So, 1 minus alpha was the fraction of CO2 that was undissociated. And we did a thought experiment. We thought of calculating the entropy of the mixture, and then that entropy is S, which is plotted here as a function of the fraction of CO2 that is undissociated, that is 1 minus alpha. And we saw that that entropy has a maximum somewhere. Since we have some understanding of second law, we understand that the system will tend to move towards that point where entropy becomes a maximum. And wherever it is maximum, wherever entropy of the system is maximum, that is where the final composition will be. So, this particular line, dashed line which you see here, that gives you the value of alpha, which will correspond to the equilibrium composition. So, if you have carbon monoxide and oxygen put together in a rigid vessel which is insulated from outside, if you leave it for sufficient length of time, then finally it will reach equilibrium and it will give us a composition. So, we understood that, but today we will do a few more things. Today we will also think about a situation when we do not have a constant internal energy, constant volume sort of situation. Last time it was constant internal energy because the vessel was insulated from outside, and it was also constant volume because it was a rigid vessel with constant volume. We will consider today other situation where we want to see how to get the composition if temperature and pressure are specified. So, temperature, pressure, mass, these things are specified. So, we are not saying constant internal energy, for example, and then we will see how to apply second law and how to get the composition of the equilibrium mixture. So, we will do that, but just before that, let us just quickly think about chemical equilibrium once more. Now, what I said last time is that if we do things like this, if you do this, then we are assuming that the products are those corresponding to complete combustion. Now, that may not be a good assumption because we ourselves understood that sometimes the temperatures may be high and maybe the CO2 will dissociate, things like that. Nobody told us, but we could actually sense that this sort of a situation is possible. CO2 can maybe dissociate, and the same thing can happen to H2O. So, complete combustion is an assumption which need not always be correct. So, we are trying to do better, that is why you were doing chemical equilibrium. That was the philosophy behind it. Now, before we proceed further with the discussion of chemical equilibrium, I will just like to tell you one more thing, that when we write an equation like what you see on the screen, CH4 plus 2O2 etc., we are essentially doing only an atom balance. So, the number of carbon atoms on the left hand side of the equation and the right hand side of the equation, they are the same. Number of hydrogen atoms on both sides of the equation are the same, and stuff like that. We are just balancing atoms, assuming the products. We are assuming that CO2 and H2O will get formed, right. So, if somebody asks you, is this a chemical reaction, then what will you say? It is actually not a chemical reaction. In other words, if you take methane, 1 kilomole of methane and 2 kilomole of oxygen. It's not like all molecules of oxygen, all molecules of methane will be attacked, each individual molecule of methane will be attacked by 2 molecules of oxygen. It will not happen that way. Okay. So, this is just an overall representation, this is a mass balance, this is an atom balance. What in reality will happen is that CH4 will break and then oxygen will break and lots of other things will happen, and there will be lots of intermediate reactions. The number of intermediate reactions is actually very high. If you are talking about methane combustion, maybe there are more than 200 reactions that will happen. Anyway, that is not something which we are discussing now, but I nevertheless brought this up to tell you that this is much more complicated than what this simple mass balance, simple balance of atoms will tend to indicate to you, right. So, we will keep that in mind. Now, we are discussing chemical equilibrium, and we are also trying to think of a situation when we are interested in getting the composition at constant pressure and temperature. So, it is not constant internal energy and constant volume. So, to do that, we will slightly change the strategy. Last time we said that okay, we will look at this ds, change in entropy, set that equal to 0 corresponding to equilibrium, and maybe we can do something there to get that value of alpha, entropy maximization. From that we can get the composition. But it so happens that for constant temperature pressure sort of situation, it is easier to work with G. Now, G is Gibbs free energy and G is H minus Ts. Okay. Since we are not doing thermodynamics in detail, I am assuming that you are sort of familiar with what I am saying. And for fixed temperature and pressure, we will like to write dG equal to 0 at equilibrium. Okay. So, dG equal to 0, and G for the mixture will be written as summation Ni GIT, where GIT is actually Gibbs function. Okay. And if you have, for example, a reaction like this, and all that. So, these are chemical species A, B, C, E, F, etc. And the smaller case letters which you see, small a, small b, small c, small e, etc., these are the coefficients. Just as you have 1 CH4 plus 2 O2 and things like that, you have similar things here. So, this is written with a reversible sign here, which means that this reaction can go in both the direction, that is A, B, C can react to give you E, F, etc., but on the other hand E, F, etc. can also react and go in the other direction. So, that can give you the original reactants back, that is C, B, A, etc. Now, for such a situation, if we use this definition of G, and if we also say dG equal to 0 using second law, that is corresponding to equilibrium, then we will be able to write the following after some work. So, this work I am actually not doing, but I would ask you to look up any thermodynamics book or even Turns's book. So, this will give us delta GT naught equal to minus R bar T log of Kp. Now, what is delta GT naught? Delta GT naught is this quantity here, which is a standard state Gibbs function change. So, that delta GT naught is written as etc. So, what I have used here is this E, F, etc., the first few terms which come from the right hand side of this equation, and you have small a, small b, etc., which come from the left hand side, that is from the reactant side of this equation. So, what is delta g t naught again? It is a standard state Gibbs function change, and you have also the small g terms here. So, small g now has this 0, small 0 on the top, it has a small f here, and it has, let us say this one, it has a capital F here, right. So, what are these? Let us carefully look at these. The bar there must indicate that this is a molar quantity. That is the notation that we are following. Bar means a molar quantity. So, this is Gibbs function of formation. This small g is a Gibbs function of formation on molar basis. So, that is why this bar. What is this 0 here? That corresponds to ambient pressure. Now, there are two f's here. Now, the small f corresponds to formation. So, this is Gibbs function of formation. The capital F is that species capital F. So, if you are getting too confused with small f and capital F, look at something else. Look at this one, which is a similar term, which has again small f for formation and capital E to indicate the species, right. So, this is delta g t naught bar. Delta g t naught bar can be calculated using these. What do we know here and what do we not know here? We will know the small e, small f, small a, small b, etc., because these will come from this reaction, correct. So, we have the reaction. So, we will have the small e, small f, small a, small b, small c, etc., no problem with that. Will we have this g, small g f terms, you know, small g with a bar and with a 0 and a small f terms? Yes, those are available from the tables at the back of the book. Now, these have to be evaluated at a certain temperature. If you notice carefully, this is this temperature here, corresponding to which you have to look up the table at the back of the book. So, if you are talking about 2500 Kelvin, then you go to those tables at the back of the book, go to 2500 Kelvin and pick up these Gibbs functions of formations corresponding to 2500 Kelvin for various chemical species, right. So, this can be figured out. So, we can get delta g t naught. We know R bar. We are talking about a system where, you know, there are some reactants at some pressure and temperature, and we are trying to get the equilibrium composition corresponding to that same pressure and temperature. So, we know the temperature. Somebody has told you that okay, this is a mixture at 1 atmosphere 2500 Kelvin, we are interested in getting the equilibrium composition. So, we know the temperature, so we can get this delta g t naught. Okay. R bar is a universal gas constant, T is the temperature, that same 2500 Kelvin which you are talking about. Now, we have log of Kp. Now, Kp, as you may well have guessed by now from the notation, must be that equilibrium constant. Okay. So, probably you have done this sort of stuff in chemistry, but I will write this nevertheless. So, this is equilibrium constant based on pressure. So, this will be all that. So, what is it? This P e is a partial pressure of species E, and this P f is a partial pressure of species F. And in the denominator you have partial pressure of species A and partial pressure of species B and that kind of terms. So, you see all these dots here, which mean other products for the numerator and other reactants for the denominator. So, remember this equation which we wrote few minutes back. We have A, B, C, etc., maybe A, B, C, D on the left hand side and E, F, etc., on the right hand side. So, since this etc. business is there, we have this dots written here. So, other similar terms. So, that gives you the equilibrium constant. Now, what is partial pressure? Let us say partial pressure of E, that will be a mole fraction of E multiplied by the total pressure. So, we are talking about mixtures, we are doing combustion, we cannot get away with just one species. So, there are various species, so you are talking about a mixture, so each will have its own mole fraction. So, mole fraction multiplied by the total pressure that we are talking about will give you the partial pressure of the species. So, again the equation we are writing is delta G T naught is minus R bar T log of K P. This corresponds to equilibrium. Who has given us this? Second law of thermodynamics, must be, right? Who else? Second law of thermodynamics has given us this. What does it tell us? How is it helpful for us? Again, let us say 1 atmosphere 2500 Kelvin, you can calculate delta G T naught by looking up the tables. That is what I told you a few minutes back. And on the right hand side, you got temperature, which is already known, universal gas constant of course is known. So, what is unknown in this equation? Any response on that? What are the unknowns here? Partial pressures. Partial pressures of various species. Maybe some are known to you somehow from some source, okay, but maybe all are unknown to you. Whatever is the situation, these are, at least there are some unknowns here hidden inside Kp through partial pressures, and we will frequently try to get the mole fractions. So, if we want, we need not talk about partial pressures being the unknowns, we can talk about the mole fractions being the unknowns, correct. So, this second law gives you the mole fractions, an equation for mole fractions. So, this probably we can use to get the equilibrium composition. What is our target? What are we trying to do? Why are we doing chemical equilibrium? We are saying that we are not happy with the chemical with the complete combustion assumption. Okay. We have reasons to believe that it will not work in all cases. In many cases it will not work. So, we are trying to look at a situation where we can predict the composition of the mixture better. So, we are saying we will apply chemical equilibrium, but we need some quantitative tools with us which will give us the composition. We need equations which will give us the composition. So, this is one of the tools. So, we will try to understand how to use this by taking up an example. Yeah.
This P naught is the
all right. Yeah, that's I think that's something which I missed. P naught is a reference pressure. So, I was focusing little too much on the partial pressures. So, I forgot to tell you that this Pe by P naught, Pf by P naught, Pa by P naught and all that, P naught is a reference pressure, typically 1 atmosphere. Okay, so that's a known thing, so we will not bother too much about it. So, that's kind of in your hands. So, let us talk about a situation when we have, let us say, a system where we have carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide and oxygen. Okay. Suppose you have carbon dioxide and the carbon dioxide will dissociate, giving you carbon monoxide and oxygen. So, you have taken carbon dioxide, kept it at some pressure and temperature, you want to see what composition you will get if equilibrium is reached. That means, if you have given the system sufficient length of time. Okay. So, what are the unknown mole fractions? If you are talking about CO2 dissociation, then we will be interested in the CO2 mole fraction in the final equilibrium composition, but we will also be interested in CO, and we also be interested in O2 mole fractions, because we expect that these will be important, right. Now, we immediately see that we have three unknowns to deal with. Three unknowns to deal with, because we took CO2 at some pressure and temperature, we expect that this CO2 will break, will dissociate, give you carbon monoxide and oxygen. Okay. But just because I am writing this does not mean that I am implying that all CO2 will give you, all the CO2 will break into CO and half O2, not that. I am saying that if I just take CO2, some of it might break and give you CO and half O2. So, at equilibrium you will get CO2, CO and O2 all three, but we do not know these mole fractions, and these mole fractions will depend on what temperatures and pressures you subject that CO2 to. Okay. It will depend on all that. So, how do we calculate all this? So, we already have a tool. We need three equations, we understand now, because there are three unknowns. So, we already have a tool. We will use this delta GT naught equal to minus R bar T log of Kp here. This has the mole fractions hidden in it. So, we will get 3 mole fractions in this one for Kp. So, Kp will be like this. All right. So, what I have done here, I have just jumped to an equation. Can you verify this quickly? So, I am using this delta GT naught, okay, with my equal to minus R bar T log of Kp, but for Kp I can write this. So, where does this come from? From the basic definition of Kp. Are you comfortable with this? This one, the one in red box, does not come from this, correct? This comes from the basic definition of Kp. All right. So, this can be utilized here, this Kp, this can be utilized here, and delta GT naught can be picked up from tables. So, we got an equation, correct? So, that is our first equation for the 3 unknowns. We need 3 equations. So, this is our first. Then you can make an observation here that this is going to be non-linear, because you have CO2 mole fraction raised to the power half. Okay. If the pressure at which you want to find the composition is 1 atmosphere, then you will get rid of this term, because P naught is typically 1 atmosphere. So, this number will automatically become 1. It will make the Kp expression little simpler, but the point is that the chi O2 is still raised to the power half. So, it brings in some non-linearity. Anyway, whatever it is, we got one equation. Now, can we think of few other equations also? Is there some
relationship between the mole fractions which we have CO2 initially?
Yeah. So, that is an easy one actually. So, we can write CO plus CO2 plus O2, the mole fractions must equal 1, there is no other option. So, if the total number of moles in the mixture is 1, then each substance has number of moles equal to its mole fraction, isn't it? That is the definition of mole fraction, correct. So, that is why this is something which we can obtain. Now, this becomes our equation 2. So, we still need a third one. To get the third one, we have to do a C by O atom ratio. So, this C by O atom ratio is actually not going to change. So, since we have CO, CO2, O2 in the mixture, can we say that we can write this? Can we say this? This is little tricky. This is half. All right, again jump to an equation. Let us see whether we can understand this. Let us do the easy part first. This is equal to this. Why? This one in blue and this one in blue, these two are equal. Why? Because we just started with CO2. We started with CO2 only, let us say. I am talking about an example, right. So, I have gone to an example, that is why I wrote this equation few minutes back. I am talking about a situation when we have CO2 subjected to some pressure and temperature. So, with respect to that specific example, equation 1 is correct, this one can be used, and with respect to that specific choice, C by O will be equal to half, because there is only CO2. Whichever way it breaks, whatever mole fraction you get for CO, CO2 and O2 does not matter, C by O atom ratio will be half, because that is what you started with. Number of carbon atoms and the number of oxygen atoms are not going to change, right. Okay. So, that is the easy part, the blue parts are the easy part. Now, what about this in the middle? You can think about this, think about the mole fractions as just number of moles, let us say. Okay. So, just for simplicity, think of these mole fractions as number of moles. They are when the summation of the moles is equal to 1, then mole fractions and moles are the same thing, right. So, that might make it easier for you to think. So, why do we have chi CO plus chi CO2 added up in the numerator? Yes. So, carbon monoxide has one carbon atom, carbon dioxide has one carbon atom. So, we are just adding the number of moles of these two. Okay. Now, the more tricky part of it, we have in the denominator you have chi CO plus 2 chi CO2 plus 2 chi O2 here. So, again similar logic. So, what is the logic? The logic is that if you take CO, it has in its molecule, it has one oxygen atom, all right, it has one oxygen atom. So, this is 1 times number of moles of CO. Now, if you take CO2, then you have this 2 oxygen atoms here, right, 2 oxygen atoms here. So, that is why if you just write chi CO2, you will not be able to take care of the number of atoms of CO2. So, that is why you multiply it by 2. Similar logic for O2, one O2 molecule of course has 2 oxygen atoms. So, whatever mole fraction of oxygen you have got, you multiply that by 2. So, that gives you this number half. So, this number half, of course, you understand it is example specific, right, but typically what will happen is for the problem that you have, you will be able to do some kind of an atom ratio thing in your problem. Okay. So, this is your third equation. So, the first equation comes from chemical equilibrium, the second equation we wrote from the fact that the sum of mole fractions is equal to 1, and the third equation we have written using the carbon oxygen atom ratio. Okay. So, in fact, the third equation takes care of the fact that mass is balanced, and that is why carbon atoms, oxygen atoms, the ratio is maintained and things like that. So, if we use these 3 equations, we should be able to determine the composition of the mixture. Okay. So, that is what we were aiming at. Now, this is in fact in Turns's book, this is an example problem. So, you can look this up, and I got a summary of these results. I think it went too fast. I hope it's good enough. Is it good enough? Yeah. So, this is that example problem results in the form of a table. The equilibrium compositions at various temperatures and pressures for CO2 dissociating to CO and half O2. And if you look this up, it has got 4 pressures: 0.1 atmosphere, 1 atmosphere, 10 atmosphere, 100 atmosphere. These are 4 columns, and over here you see the mole fractions written. So, if you go along a horizontal line, you will be able to see mole fractions of carbon monoxide. If you go along the first line, the mole fractions of carbon monoxide at various pressures. Okay. So, that is what you see there. Now, let us just talk about one particular pressure, maybe pressure at 1 atmosphere. At pressure at 1 atmosphere, so we are not looking at the other pressure values right now. So, pressure at 1 atmosphere, these are the mole fraction values. That is mole fraction of CO, mole fraction of CO2, mole fraction of O2. We see all these. How did we get all this? Because temperature is 1500 Kelvin. At that 1500 Kelvin temperature, we have a delta GT naught of 1.5268 into 10 to the power 8 joule per kilomole, whatever that number is. So, these values have been obtained by solving these 3 equations, correct? Kp will come through that equation. No, Kp will come from the first equation. Let me clarify first equation once more. What I meant is the following. Yeah, so what I meant here is that this one, the one in the red box, is the expression for Kp. It is the expression for Kp, right? Expression. That means it relates Kp to in terms of mole fractions. So, that can be placed here in this delta GT naught equation. Delta GT naught equation comes from second law. Okay. Kp is the equilibrium constant definition. Definition. This is not second law. This red box is not second law. This one is second law. So, you place this here. All right. Now, the delta GT naught can be calculated. Since delta GT naught can be calculated, we can get an expression for the mole fractions in terms of various things, and that is what we are using. So, once you do that, you do not have Kp explicitly. You actually have an equation for the mole fractions. Okay. But let us say you want a value of Kp. Can you do that? Yes, that is also easy, because you can calculate delta GT naught, R bar T is known, so you can get the value of Kp. But value of Kp is not our ultimate goal, we are trying to get the composition, we are trying to get the mole fractions. All right, so let us go back to this. I do not know how, I think the visibility is not good, but anyway. We understand that we can get the mole fractions, correct, and the table that you could see just a few minutes back and cannot see anymore properly is a collection of data at 4 different pressures, which are 0.1 atmosphere, 1 atmosphere, 10 atmosphere, 100 atmosphere, and at 4 different temperatures. So, the temperatures are 1500 Kelvin, 2000 Kelvin, 2500 Kelvin, 3000 Kelvin. So, look at these in more detail little later because you can't look at the data right now. And there is a plot also, which also I think I have to show you once the light situation improves. But let's just maybe talk about chemical equilibrium in more detail. Let's talk about, since we cannot discuss the numbers so much, let's just think about chemical equilibrium once more. Some qualitative discussion. So, complete combustion may not work. We are thinking about chemical equilibrium. Chemical equilibrium might work better. That is all we said. But do we expect that chemical equilibrium will also work always, or how likely that chemical equilibrium is a good assumption for combustion situations? Let us think about that. Okay. So, what will tell us that chemical equilibrium can be assumed? Suppose there is a flame. You know something about the flame, let us say, temperature and thickness of the flame or something. You know the reactants which are going into the flame, you know the products which are getting formed, some idea of the products, okay. You know whether it is laminar, turbulent, you know whether the flame is stationary or you know whether the flame is moving, you have some kind of information on the flame. Can we just say that okay, complete combustion is not good, chemical equilibrium is going to hold, so we will use chemical equilibrium? Yeah, so we'll come to those data once more, but since we started this discussion, so this is a diversion, but what I was trying to say is that is chemical equilibrium a good assumption always? So let's think about this situation when you have, all right, so that's good. Yeah. So let's say you have a spark ignition engine. So this is a spark plug. You have this fuel air mixture here. You given a spark, and then you have the flame, which is a tiny one to start with, and then it will keep getting bigger. It has a complex topography, you know, because it's actually a turbulent flame, so it will keep propagating. If you look at the flame at a particular location, suppose this is where the flame is, then we can write U for the mixture ahead of the flame, we can write B for the mixture behind the flame to indicate that this is unburnt, this is burnt, correct? Okay. Now, the unburnt mixture is probably not doing anything, in the sense that there is not much reaction taking place in the unburnt mixture. Flame has not reached there, it is just that unburnt mixture, so probably is not doing anything. Strictly speaking, it may still do something because this pressure and temperature are raised, because so some reactions might still happen there, but let us ignore that for the time being. Let us say the unburnt mixture is not doing much. Then there are two things we are left with, a flame and what happens behind the flame that is in the burnt mixture, right? What do you think, in which zone, flame zone or in the post flame zone? What is the post flame zone? Post flame is this burnt region. So, the flame has already moved here. Behind the flame, whatever you have, that is the post flame zone. So, that region has been swept by the flame already. So, this is post. Post means after the event has taken place. So, in the post flame zone. In the post flame zone, should we expect equilibrium, or in the flame zone should we expect equilibrium, or should we not expect equilibrium in either of the two zones? Yeah, actually time is an issue. So, what he has pointed out is that time is going to be important. Whether we get equilibrium or not is going to depend on time. So, if very little time is available, then you do not expect the composition to reach equilibrium. Now, out of these two, flame and the burnt gas zone, which we are calling a flame with a post flame zone, which one is more conducive for equilibrium? Post flame zone. At the flame, things are happening very rapidly. A lot of fast reactions that are taking place in a very thin zone, and this thing is moving. Reactants are coming in, reacting, getting converted to products and moving behind the flame. All that is happening. All that is happening very quickly in a thin zone at a very fast rate. So, in the flame zone, it will not be nice, it will not be appropriate to assume that reactions are equilibrating. It will not happen that way. In the post flame zone, it is more likely. In the post flame zone, so in this B part here, maybe the products of combustion, which are the burned gases, if they mix sort of well, they are getting definitely much more time than what the reactants are getting and the products are getting, the species are getting in the flame zone. So, you are more likely to get away with an equilibrium assumption. Of course, nothing is perfect, this will still not be perfect, but this is still better. Okay. So, we took this digression because of the technical issue that we had, but this tells you something important. This tells you that even chemical equilibrium is not necessarily something which will work. Right? In the flame zone, typically even chemical equilibrium does not work. Okay. So, we will have to, in fact, once we discuss chemical equilibrium, we will also have to think about rates of reaction, important, because as Reddy pointed out, it is time which is going to matter, and time is what? Time for the species to equilibrate, time for reactions to equilibrate will depend on how fast these reactions are and what kind of physical time scale you are giving. Like for example, these burned gases get a certain amount of time because the piston is moving down and things like that. So, it is getting certain amount of time, but is that time sufficient for those products behind the flame in the post flame zone to get equilibrated? We do not know. We can only learn these things better and be in a better position to answer these questions once we have understood chemical kinetics, how fast reactions take place. Right now, we are doing thermodynamics. One distinction between thermodynamics and several other subjects, for example, chemical kinetics, is that thermodynamics does not really talk about time, okay, does not talk about rates. So, we are talking about chemical equilibrium. I said, okay, if there is sufficient time available, then that CO2, CO and O2 will equilibrate. But who says how much is sufficient time? I have not told you that so far. That will depend on various rates, but thermodynamics cannot actually help with those. So far, we have not discussed how fast that CO2 dissociates. What is the rate at which CO2 dissociates? What is the dependence on temperature or pressure, for example? We have not discussed any of these, correct? All right. So, this was a digression which had to be done. Now, we will come back to that plot which we were looking at. I think this is good enough. Okay. So, we get all these mole fractions solving these three equations, and now we understand that delta GT naught is not difficult to calculate. Delta GT naught will come from this Gibbs functions of formation which are available at the back of the book. So, given a temperature, you can calculate delta GT naught. This is standard state Gibbs function change. So, this is delta GT naught indicating that this corresponds to a particular temperature. Okay, that is why this subscript capital T. So, this is corresponding to 1500 Kelvin. If you go to a temperature of 2000 Kelvin, this number has already changed, delta GT naught number has already changed. So, it is dependent on temperature. All right. So, you can do all these calculations at various pressures and temperature and get all this data which you see here, and this same data of course becomes much easier to interpret if you look at a plot. The same thing in a plot, and what is plotted is CO mole fractions at various temperatures. So, you can see various isotherms there, 1500 Kelvin, 2000 Kelvin, 2500 Kelvin and 3000 Kelvin as a function of pressure. Okay. So, CO mole fractions resulting from dissociation of pure carbon dioxide at various temperatures and pressures is what the figure caption says, right. So, can we learn something out of this? These are results of calculations solving those three equations, but is there a way of interpreting this?
At a given temperature, as the pressure is increasing, the dissociation is reducing, CO is reducing.
CO is reducing means dissociation is actually reducing, because we are starting with CO2. So, that is a good point.
And then again, as the temperature is increasing, composition is
CO mole
increasing.
CO mole fraction is increasing. Okay. So, that is what your calculations have told you, but there is a nice little principle which you will find in chemistry textbooks which explains this. So, this is La Chatelier's principle. So, it is about chemical equilibrium, and in this case you know that this is CO2 giving you CO plus half O2. So, in this case you see that the left hand side you have 1 mole, on the right hand side you have 1.5 moles. So, the number of moles actually increases from left to right. Okay. So, according to La Chatelier's principle, if we increase pressure, it will tend to go towards the direction where the number of moles is decreased. Is that happening in this plot? If you increase pressure, if you go in this direction, there is less CO, because if it goes towards more CO, it will have to move towards right and it will increase the number of moles, which La Chatelier said is not possible. Okay. So, this is according to La Chatelier's principle. So, when you studied La Chatelier's principle in school or maybe in college, first year, second year chemistry, you may not have thought of verifying this using these calculations, but you can see this verification here. And what is the other thing that La Chatelier said about composition here with respect to increasing temperature? If you increase temperature, it will try to go to the direction in which the increase in temperature is negated, compensated. So, it will go towards the endothermic direction. Is that what happening here? If you go to higher temperatures, CO mole fraction is increasing. So, that means there is more dissociation. Dissociation must be endothermic, that is CO2 breaking into CO plus half O2 must be endothermic, because CO plus half O2 giving you CO2 is exothermic. Correct? So, we understand this now better. Now, we will have to close in a few minutes, but before that let me tell you that this problem can become more complex. So, we started with CO2, right, and I said that this gives you CO plus half O2, all right. So, we got the screen back, but even this is an assumption. We are saying that this is the only thing that will happen. In some cases, I mean, we cannot really actually say that this will not happen either. This can happen, even O2 can dissociate into oxygen atom. So, if that is the case, then you will have chi CO2, chi CO, chi O2, but chi O also, oxygen atom mole fraction also. So, you have to bring in some other equation, maybe you have to look at some other balance, all right. So, we are not discussing this right now, maybe we can discuss this in one of the tutorial sessions, but the complexity of the problem can increase depending on the number of species that we have, okay. And the number of species that we have also depends on the extent of accuracy we want to investigate. So, if you just say that okay, I am assuming that there is no oxygen atom, okay, even though there will be oxygen atom, if you just say that okay, maybe I am not so much bothered about oxygen atom, so I will just bother about carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide and O2, then you work with 3 equations and get all this composition and plot this nice thing which I have just now shown you. But if O2 still has to dissociate, which is better because then you are taking care of more possibilities, then your system will actually become more complicated. Now, this was an easy system, CO2 dissociating into few things. So, you get 3 mole fractions, maybe 4 mole fractions, not so difficult. But ultimately we are not dealing with carbon monoxide and oxygen and carbon dioxide, that will be too easy a thing to do. So, we have to talk about, let us say, combustion of propane, and whatever happens here, right. There, how do we bring in equilibrium? We do not know. There are ways of doing it, and today we will run out of time, so we will not be able to do it easily. No way in fact we will be able to do it today, but we have to assume some kind of equilibrium reactions like what we did for the previous example. The previous example, we took these 2, we spoke of these 2, CO plus half O2, we spoke of O2 dissociating into O, we did all that. So, here we have to think about some such possibilities, some sets of equilibrium reactions with their associated equilibrium constants. So, each equilibrium reaction like this will have an equilibrium constant, this also will have an equilibrium constant. Okay. In fact, if you think about it, this equilibrium constant must be giving us the 4th equation, right. So, here also you have to think about equilibrium reactions and bring those equilibrium constants in, and then make sure that your number of unknowns and the number of equations that you have, they match. Once that happens, then you will be able to solve and get a solution for all the mole fractions. We understand here that I have just picked up the results from the book. We have not done the solution ourselves of these 3 mole fractions or these 4 mole fractions, whatever. And we also understand that at least one of the equations was non-linear, and these are coupled equations. So, it will take some effort. You need a sort of non-linear routine which will give you the roots for this. So, it will take some effort, and if you think of, let us say, a hydrocarbon combustion with more number of equilibrium reactions, it is in fact going to be much more difficult. In fact, using an equilibrium constant approach like the one which we discussed in the previous example is not very feasible for hydrocarbon combustion, for complex systems, for many number of species. It is not very feasible. So, there is another method which people use, that is using a method of Lagrange multipliers, and if you have looked at the last few problems of the tutorial sheet that I gave you, I refer to a website where there is a web based calculator where you give the reactant composition, you assume equilibrium, then it will give you the product species, right. There an equilibrium constant approach is not used, there is some other method which is used. Okay. So, since we are running out of time, we will not discuss all that today, but here is what I am trying to say, that equilibrium calculation is not exactly straightforward. It will, especially if you have a complex system, it will have multiple reactions with multiple equilibrium constants. Some equations will be non-linear. So, if you have to solve this, it will take you substantial amount of effort. There are other easier methods which are available, and there are packaged softwares available as well as web based free softwares available. So, we will utilize some of these to learn how to use equilibrium calculation to get the composition of various mixtures. Nevertheless, the simple example that we looked at today gives you some idea of how this can possibly be done. So, equilibrium constant will not be used, something easier than this will be used, but we will have all these unknowns and solve equations and finally give you the equilibrium composition. So, I think we will stop here today. Thank you.